Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. This is Will Bridges from 123Trade. Welcome to this week's client-only trading session. We're just about ready to get started. It seems like a lot going on in the world right now. China is actually looking at a little bit of a slowdown. Doesn't seem like it's, well, as of the beginning of this week, they had their GDP numbers come out, and it looks like the slowdown is not as bad as people think. But there's still an issue in the housing market over there, for those of you that aren't aware. And what that's going to do is force them to have to print money to support it. Okay, so that's generally going to have kind of a ripple effect across the world. I want to look at a couple of different things here. I think there might be a pretty big opportunity on a few different things, and we will get to that. I want to make sure that everybody can hear me, everybody can see the screen. Thank you, Carrie, doing great. It is a little bit cold here in Florida, well, what we call cold. And I know that we're on Fahrenheit here, so because of, Americans decided we were going to have our own ways to measure things, so we're not on Celsius like everybody else on Earth, but it's been 50 degrees here Fahrenheit. I know that's a heck of a lot of Celsius, but how we doing, Janko? It seems like you guys can hear me. You guys should be looking at a screen with Jared talking with his hands right now. We should be about ready to get started here. It is 9:01. I don't want to keep anybody waiting for the cool part. Hope you guys came here ready to look at some charts. We're going to go through a good bit of news if you haven't gotten the flavor with that from me yet. But let's go ahead and get the show on the road here, people. Let me make sure everybody's awake. Let me get my attendance list up here. Thanks, Tony, for the reminder to put the link in the Discord server. If you guys aren't in Discord and you're just getting the emails, I post the recordings and I post the registration links typically in the Facebook group and the Discord server. And if there's an update, a lot of times I'm going to post that stuff in there as well. So if you're not in those groups, then you should probably, let's just send an email to brokers@123trade.com and I can help you get in there. How we doing, Syed? But let's get started. First things first, okay? This is a risk disclaimer. If you've ever traded anything, you've seen a lot of them. If you plan to trade in the future, you will see a lot more of them. What it says is that if you put your money into the Forex or into any market for that matter, your capital is at risk. I like to say that you have to risk it to get the biscuit. So reality of the situation is no such thing as a guaranteed trade or opportunity. You will see me trade with a stop loss, and we're going to talk a lot about how risk management works. I'm going to trade a live account in here with you guys today. With my own actual personal money, and you guys will get a little bit of a feel for how I go through that operation and all of the mental gymnastics that it takes to figure out how to place a trade that you're okay with. Raul, hablo español un poquito sola, estoy practicando, so I'm going to have to work on this. It looks like, what is the difference? Enter an order, a market order, and a pending order. I don't know how to answer that in Spanish, but a pending order means you're basically setting an order. I'll show you in the session here today, but you're setting an order that will open at a specific price. So if the market reaches a specific price, you would enter as a buyer or a seller with a pending order. So it's the equivalent of a surfer waiting for a wave at the sandbar. That's a very relevant analogy for me because I live here in Florida. Maybe not as much for everybody else in the world, but essentially it's waiting for the price you want as opposed to getting in right now, which would be a market order. All right, so if you guys do have questions, okay, do not be afraid to ask. I barely speak Spanish. I'm not sure if Raul is going to understand my answer or not, but I hope so. In English, I can read in Spanish, not so much communicate. The whole two-way thing makes it difficult for me because I don't get to use it very much. But if you do have questions, stop me. I'm paying attention, okay? The whole reason why we exist is to try to make your trading life less complicated, okay? Because a lot of people don't know where to start, okay? We want to give a lot of assistance in getting regulated, secure brokerage, make sure that people... wait, where can I see your achieved previous sessions? Are they in AOD? Syed, our previous sessions, we do these every week, okay? Those are on 123trade.com/YouTube. Okay, those are on our website. They will be posted. They're all in our Discord server and in our Facebook group as well, but they are on our website, 123trade.com. I'm going to pull that up here in a second also, and I'll show you where that is. but we want to give as much guidance and mentorship as possible, okay? Because a lot of people, don't necessarily understand what it means to be a risk manager. That's really what trading is. If you want to be calling yourself a trader, you are a risk manager. That's really what this is all about, okay? So that's the name of the game. It's to make more than you give back. And I want to show you guys a lot of strategies that I've learned over the last 7-8 years, to try to maintain my own profitability. Okay, so I've been through everything you guys are going to go through. I've lost money. I've made lots. I've had really rough days. I've had really great days. I can really help you guys understand the psychology behind what causes all of the emotional swings that you guys might be going through. And I know some of you are new in here. There's definitely some fresh names in the group this week. How many of you have ever had a day where you wished that you had never opened the trade that's running? Just give me a quick why in the chat box. Have you ever opened a trade that you looked at the next day and you thought, why? Why did I do that to myself? Because that's who did it, you, not the market. So I want to make sure that we get that abundantly clear in here today. Okay, it looks like there's lots of whys. Thanks, Syed. Thanks, Shanko. Thanks, Carrie. Thanks, Hank. And Hank, yes, this is going to be recorded this week. I do have the recording on. I did double check since you did ask. If you haven't opened a trade yet, you're going to learn way more about yourself after you open your first one. Key is to open with the smallest trade size possible your first time. Everybody wants to put their first trade on a pedestal. I remember the first time I placed a trade, and my heart beat fast and I sweat that micro lot that I traded. Okay, so everybody goes through that. That's totally normal. And that's just going to be a different part of learning when it comes to trading. It's more about learning about yourself and your risk tolerance. So we're going to get more to that in this session. Okay, so reality, I'm going to go through a lot of the how to set things up type of information in here. A lot of information is on our website. Like I said, actually, I've got our news page up right now. I was going through this before the session. Essentially, this is a list of all the most popular articles on the internet for topics like New Zealand economy, Australian economy. Essentially, the entire world is on this page. Okay, so I went through this prior to the session, just a quick look at things. Food stamps, it looks like we're going to be giving a ton of those here in the US. We're going to be burning more carbon dioxide next year. So that doesn't mean that demand for oil is coming down. That means demand for oil is coming up. Okay, fuel prices could go parabolic as Putin raises stakes in Eastern Europe while he, really more or less tries to defend Russia from having a NATO base in Ukraine right next door. So, everybody's got different points of view on that situation. My point of view is that I would prefer not to go to war with Russia as an American. And I think that the rest of the world might agree with me. But that being said, okay, we're not here to talk about politics. We're here to talk about the effect on markets. So we're going to look at a couple of different things. I definitely want to look at oil. Okay. A lot of people have been talking about Omicron. That really, kind of leads to the discussions about risk in the markets, all that type of stuff. And when I say risk in the markets, that really just means that for example, if China shuts down their economy for Omicron fears, then that will have a big effect on the entire world. Okay, so all those things said, I want to get into a little bit less convoluted economic information. And actually, I do have a scoring system for this regular news. Okay, there's an ebook in here. If you guys click on this link, I'll show you this real quick, then we'll move on. But if you haven't seen this, okay, if you want to know how to, score market sentiment from the news, okay, I wrote an ebook on it. It's based on web traffic statistics and how many people are reading good news versus how many people are reading bad news, okay, which basically boils down to the overall feeling, okay, because most people don't come up with their own ideas. They get them from someone else, myself included, okay? So let's go ahead and pull up the calendar itself, and we're going to get into the chart here in a second. Just want to make sure that we get our narrative together and I figure out what I actually want to trade. I already know that I want to look at oil. I already know that there's a potential for big risk in China. So I'm going to look at the JPY today. I'm really just trying to narrow down what I want to look at. That's what we're doing right now. As far as what you're watching me do, I'm figuring out, okay, what do I actually want to try to trade? What do I think is going to move? Okay, that's really the most important part. What do I think is going to move? Okay, for this part of my process. Okay, so we look at this here, CNY, it's the Chinese yuan, it's the currency that this is affected by. Okay, and what we're looking at, actual GDP came out higher than forecast. Okay, but you will notice that it is slowing down. Okay, so the previous GDP quarter over year, which basically means that the last quarter of 2022 was better than the last quarter of 2021, excuse me, was better for them than the last quarter of 2020. Not a huge surprise. You guys remember 2020? You guys remember economies around the world really killing it? Not so much in 2020. So that being said, okay, let's keep on moving here. Bank of Japan outlook report. Okay, this is always going to be a little bit difficult to figure out. Typically, Japan likes to share very little economic information and strategy other than the fact that they like the yen being inexpensive. Okay, that's pretty much what they said. The yen is going to be weak, and that's good for us, is what they usually come out and say, and so many other words. So I'm just going on my experience with that. But reality of the situation is, all this really means that they put out their outlook is that there will be a trend set. They're not necessarily going to tell me. I'm going to use technicals to figure out where that might be. Okay, so I definitely want to look at the JPY because we had a big, trend-setting report come out. Okay, I don't necessarily know what they said means, but I can look at what happened to the market after and figure it out. Okay, so GBP, okay, on Wednesday here. We haven't seen any other big news really this week since Wednesday. Okay, the UK, they also just got rid of all their mask mandates. How many people in the UK do we have in the room here today? Usually we got a good number. So if mask mandates are gone, if vaccine passports are gone, you guys feel like people are more likely to go shopping, buy things at, malls? Do you think people are more likely to go to restaurants? Do you think people are more likely to try to go on vacation somewhere, stay in a hotel? All those things, right? So that's a big change for the UK. I would say probably a lot different attitude than we had at the beginning of last year. So from an economic standpoint, I probably want to look at the pound because demand may go up as people are allowed to leave their homes more and they don't have to worry about getting fined for walking around on the sidewalk without a mask. Okay, so doesn't matter how you feel about the politics in here, we're not here to discuss that. We're here to talk about the fact that more people will be able to go out and spend money and not worry about it, which basically just means more people will do that. Okay, so my opinion, we may see a little bit of a push on the pound. May not be immediate, but we're going to take a look at that. I'm interested in the pound. I'm interested in the yen. Just looking at these couple announcements that are here and that one piece of news that came out. Okay, this CPI number here, this is the consumer price index. Okay, the US's year-over-year number was 7.1. Okay, so they had actually less inflation last year in the UK than we did here in the US by a lot. Okay, this is still a crazy high number. Canada, on the other hand, they've got, it looks like their inflation is falling. If we look at Canada's month-over-month numbers here, looks like Canadian inflation is going down, which is interesting. So that's actually a good sign for them. Doesn't really seem like they want to raise interest rates a whole lot. Seems like we want to here in the US, but China might ruin it. Okay, so I'm going to stay away from the dollar because that seems like a very confusing situation right now. And if that's confusing, it makes me feel better about my JPY. Australia down here, if you guys can see this is what happens when you reopen economies. The unemployment rate falls, and actually this is really low. Okay, this unemployment rate that they're looking at here in Australia is, I don't know if is this the right number? This came out this week. This is the lowest we've seen in many years. Okay, so we could see some pretty serious Aussie strength. which would be very interesting, the way that the last couple of years have gone. But let's go ahead and check out some charts here. Okay, so just to summarize what we've talked about so far, because I know I get into a lot of details about stuff. So far, I'm looking at it. I'm interested in the JPY, so I'm going to look at the index for that. I'm going to show you guys the index first. I'm interested in the pound. I'm going to look at the index for that too. Okay, and I'm interested in the Aussie. Okay, really everything on this page except for the Chinese yuan, because it's not really heavily traded. And anywhere you can trade it, typically you're going to pay a high spread, and that's just not, in my opinion at least. I don't trade it. But let's get over here first. Let's check out this JPY. Okay, you guys see this. This is the JPY. This is the index. Okay, this is the JPY versus the world. Okay, so I'm going to delete these lines here and redraw them so you guys can see where they came from. But really, I'm going to do the same thing on every chart we look at. I'm going to draw a line from left to right. Here's our highest high on the left. Okay, I'm going to draw it to my next highest high. Our divorce line. I guess it's only showing 7 years of data, so it may take longer than 7 years to come back to your estranged spouse. But as far as this goes, that looks like a pretty clear-cut trend to me. You guys feel pretty good about those trend lines? Do you feel like I made any stretches? We didn't have to figure out a whole lot there. Yeah, I mean, keep it simple. Okay, here's another pattern that you'll want to see. There was a trend here, and it broke, and then the market went up a lot. Here's another one right over here. Okay, and this one's a little bit of a different situation. We haven't quite broke out yet. So one of two things could happen. It could either fall like a rock, or it could break out and go very far to the north. Okay, so this is kind of a, decision territory for this currency. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, get a little bit of a closer look, because things are going to be a little bit more, let's just say, generalized on the higher time frames. If I find something that I really like on the high time frame, I don't necessarily have to care a ton about everything else. But really, this thing's been up the last 2 weeks in a row, and it's gaining speed. So if the momentum of the market is up right now, if I zoom in more, we look at the day chart. I'm not quite at this. I might see a little bit of resistance coming here soon. Okay, somewhere up here. So I may see a little bit of strength, maybe see a little bit of weakness after that. Who knows? That's a pivot in my mind. If the market closes above somewhere up here today, okay, I am going to be real bullish because we're above our pivot. Okay, if we close above there, I'm going to be real bullish next week if that happens. Okay, so let's go look at a pair. Okay, and I'm thinking about potential strength in the JPY. Okay, so if I'm looking at potential strength in the JPY, strength in the Aussie, I want to play it against something that I don't expect as much strength. Maybe we look at something like the USD JPY. Actually, before we go too far, let's go to the US dollar. I'll show you guys this index before we just look at the USD JPY on its own. Check this out. Okay, so this is the US dollar versus everything. Okay, so really only two kinds of trading that I know about. You're either going to actually, you know what? Before I just go ahead and tell you guys, I say this in here all the time. We got a lot of people in here that are new today. Two kinds of trading. What do you guys? I'll give you a hint. One of them is trend trading. What is the other one? You guys want to type in the chat box. I want to make sure that you're alive, and the people that come here every week are catching on. Thanks, Ross. Range trading. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Hank. I should say John. Mr. Mark. Range. Thanks, John. Thanks, Antonio. Yeah, consolidating, sideways. Okay, so that's really the two kinds of trading that's out there. I mean, there's a lot of different indicators. We could talk about some of them in here today if you want to. If you guys have a specific indicator you want to know about that you want me to slap on the chart here, and we'll give you an idea what it's actually reading, then we can do that. Okay, there's an outer trend. Okay, we had an outer trend over here. I guess we're missing some data, but that was really kind of our trend over there. And then over here, the market kind of came up for a while, and we broke. Okay, so this line up top, it'll be relevant, but not for a long time. So I don't necessarily have to care about it because it's super far away from what the market's doing. Okay, so here's our trend. Reality, this is the last decade, just right here. Okay, there's our trend. It broke. Okay, so we haven't made a lower low on the right side of this trend line. If you guys can see this over here. Okay, so we've got a low where our trend line is, and we haven't made a lower one over here yet. This one is actually higher. Okay, so the market rose a lot. Okay, right now, okay, so we've looked at trend information so far, and really we've only looked at it from one direction. If we look at it from the top, I pull something like a Fibonacci, we just hit our 382 retracement level on the way down. So there is a shot. This thing could come up, especially considering we're still talking about raising interest rates. It could come up all the way to there. Okay, that's where our 618 is. This, we've already, we've already broken our 236 down here, but really the range that exists up here, I'm going to delete all this stuff and just show you a box. It is my favorite tool, and it has been for a while. Okay, I'm just looking for places where the market's turned around that are close to my price. Okay, and if there are enough of these prices, then I will care about them. If there are not enough of these prices, then I won't. It's pretty straightforward. So let's actually make this a slightly different color so it's a little easier to see. I'm gonna zoom in here. I'm gonna choose with my eyeballs here and see if I feel overall bullish on the dollar. And the reality is that from current market price, where we are right now, okay, is this a place where the market may have busted some previous highs or previous lows and come back to test? It does look like it could be. It does look like there are turnarounds at this existing price, because I'm just looking for places where the market has turned around so I can decide if I want to enter or exit a trade. Okay, so there's big turnarounds that have happened at this price. Okay, so our trend lately, okay, and we looked at this trend line here. Okay, I'm going to show this one here. You guys watched me draw this one here a moment ago. I'm going to give you guys a little bit more insight on how trend lines, in my opinion, work, because it doesn't necessarily always mean that the market's just going to come down. Okay, so typically what I'm looking for anyways is going to be a 1, 2, 3. If we do break these, if I do assume that this trend is going to continue down, I need a down, usually followed by an up, and then a down. Okay, right now we're looking at a situation where the US is not talking about lowering interest rates. Okay, this trend here may not even apply anymore. Okay, does anybody remember what it was like to live in 2018? That was a real question. Does anybody remember what life was like over here in 2018? Okay, heck of a lot different than it is today. Okay, so that being said, I want a little bit closer look at this, and that's really what trading is all about. I want to figure out, yeah, it feels like a century ago, right? Yeah, a long time. So life in 2018 was way different, for those of you that don't remember. But really, our trend, okay, from down here, this is the beginning of last year. Okay, this is when, Joe Biden got in office. We really started to, they started to really turn the economy back on. Well, they kind of dragged it out in a few states here in the U.S. Florida was wide open at that point. It was back to, going to the grocery store unabated. You could do anything you want here. And, people weren't going to judge you so much here in Florida. It feels like a different planet. I'm going to go visit my brother in Idaho here soon, and I feel like it's very similar there. But if I were to go somewhere like Oregon or Maine to visit the rest of my family or whatever, totally different planet. Okay, so what we're looking at here now, this is a basic trend. This goes for the last year, which is kind of, as we've discussed, a different planet than 3 years ago. So this is what we're looking at. This is an uptrend. So I don't necessarily want to bet against the dollar. Okay, I may be scared of the USD/JPY. Okay, what I want to do is I want to figure out, well, where are the technical moves that might be happening? And we've discussed a lot of news. I may bet against my supposed narrative here, just based on the technicals. I like to make jokes a lot about never being wrong about a trade, just being early. And I really feel that way. But that being said, I'm expecting some Aussie strength. Okay, if we're looking at the potential for more dollar strength, then I may be looking for a long here. Let's go ahead and make this all time frame here a bit more broad, so everybody can get a look at what's going on. for the long haul with this Aussie JPY. Okay, so this one, okay, right off the bat, you guys think that this is a trending market or a sideways market? You guys feel like the last, 30 years, this thing has been trending or sideways? Yeah, I feel like sideways too. And the reason why I feel that way is because I can very easily put a box around it and really find some pretty serious highs and lows. And this is the long-term trend. Okay, so this doesn't necessarily mean that it, is sideways all the time, because it's really not. It goes on pretty big runs. Okay, so it comes down here and it comes back up here, and then it comes back down, and then it goes back up, and then it comes back down, this time really fast, and then it went right back up, and then it kind of decided if it wanted to stay up, and then it came right back down to the bottom. This is a pinball, has been for the last 30 years. Okay, so if I know that, and reality is the last side of my box we touched was the bottom, I think that they're probably ready for these prices up top that we haven't seen since, shortly after the last serious crash that we had. So, all things considered, and back in 2008, where the world fell apart and people started to panic, okay, this was low. Okay, so what I'm looking at, opportunity to buy, okay, on this high time frame so far. Zoom into my week. Okay, I want to get a feel for what's going on, and I mentioned trends. Okay, so here's a trend line. Okay, there was one here, and the market broke that line, and then it went a heck of a lot higher later. Okay, and then we had another true low here. Okay, and this was our trend for a while, and we broke that. And the interesting thing about it is that we made what looks like a new high over here on the right after that. Okay, and we've got a higher low. Okay, so here's the high I'm comparing to, so we're all on the same page. High, we broke this trend line, and then we made a new high. So we didn't really confirm that this is a trend line break. Okay, that really kind of made my trend this line right over here, kind of put our trend over there. Okay, that's really where it went. Okay, and then we moved over more. We've got lows here. I'm just trying to confirm my trend line and my change in trend direction. Okay. But I've got a low, and then I've got a higher low. Okay, so my opinion is that this thing is not a downtrend, because we're getting higher highs, getting higher lows, and the reality of the situation is that low that I just circled here on the right, all the way over here on the right, that was a month ago or longer. This is really where my trend line is. Okay, so if we break that trend line again, I'm probably going to buy, because it seems like it's worked out every other time. But for right now, I'm going to assume that I'm going to be biased to the north for all of the reasons that we just talked about for the last 5 minutes. Okay, so I haven't even got down to the part where I want to make a trade yet. But now this is going to be a much more simple situation. Now it just doesn't matter necessarily how much my story or any of that stuff makes sense. I really just decided what I wanted to look at with all that information. But here's a quick trend, and we're at the 618. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and figure out how many pips I've got at risk. Okay, this is where I expect this to extend to, should the market go my way. That's really the best thing I can hope for. I'm not going to get to make this thing move. Okay, I am going to, get to pick what direction I want to go, but I don't get to tell the market, hey, you should go up. I would be a lot happier if you went up. Okay, because you won't get that opportunity, I promise. Okay, so we're on the daily time frame. Market hasn't been below this price where this stop loss line is at 80 and change. I want to say that's 170 pip stop loss. Let's go ahead and measure this. Okay, so we're talking about 160 pips. Okay, 160 pips to try to capture. On the top side here, we're looking at 400 plus. Okay, so 3-to-1 type of opportunity. So my mind, this is a no-brainer. Okay, if the market hits my price up top here, fantastic. Do I think it can go a lot higher? Yes. Do I think that it could come lower? Yeah, that's why we have a stop loss. Okay, so now I need to figure out what amount of stop loss I can afford. Okay, so now that I've got my stop loss figured out and how far it is, I need to figure out, this is the live account we're looking at, and this is a small one. I want to show you guys more or less how to get things going. Okay, and really how to not get yourself in trouble. Because if you can avoid getting in trouble, you can give yourself opportunity, well, to have a good day. Okay, because if you don't have very many days, you won't have very many good ones. Really that straightforward. Okay, so if I know I'm risking 160 pips on the bottom here, okay, 160, and we're just going to say I'm going to look for 400 on the top side. Okay, all things considered here. Okay, if I'm looking for 400 pips, I'm trying to make at a 0.01. Okay, 0.01, a micro lot, the smallest trade that I can make. Okay, I would be risking roughly $16 on this trade. $16 is not going to be a life changer for me. Neither is the $40 that I'm aiming to make. Okay, that's the point. That I don't have to care about this, and you know, this live money account, I'm not going to sweat about at all. I'm going to go about living my life, not thinking about the Aussie JPY, because I would rather go fishing this weekend. And I don't know, I've been having a lot of fun cutting out the floor in my shed, and I'm going to fix that and not think about trading at all. So that's really what I want to do this weekend. And you know, Monday night I might paint my bathroom. You know, I don't want to have to think about any of this stuff. So now I'm done with the Aussie JPY. I bought, I'm in the trade, I'm already up 17 cents. That's pretty neat. Now I'm going to go to another pair. Okay, so we may be on like a buy the rumor, sell the news type of situation. Australia had some good news come out. Really, it seems like the JPY should be strong based on the news from China. I'm going to kind of bet against the news that's out, that just hit. Okay, because it seems to be a decent setup here. We were right at our 618. This market really kind of fit right into my trading strategy. So I want to try to see if the NZD JPY is going to be similar. I also believe that this particular currency could be in for a little bit of an upswing. And let's come to the all-time frame so you guys can get a view of this one, just like we did with the Aussie. Okay, and this one here. Okay, you guys think uptrend, downtrend, sideways? What do you guys think? Sideways. That's what's up. There's absolutely, you know, no reason to believe this thing's going to go on a 10-year stint in any direction. So that said, okay, I want to take a look at this and figure out what's been going on. And, you know, maybe let's just take a look at where these recent turnarounds are and figure out how impactful those were and where the big turnarounds below might be that are actually going to matter. Let's find a range, okay, that makes a lot of sense to trade. Okay, because if I know this has been sideways, I'm going to look for trending activity in between the sideways movement. Okay, and you know, a lot of people have you ever heard? Let's just say I might as well ask, how many of you are familiar with the term regress towards the mean? Regression towards the mean. Just give me a Y or an N. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, then I'm going to make it real simple. Essentially, what that means is that things have a tendency to go back to the average. Okay, so if you add a lot of data to a situation, you're going to move more towards the average. So if you've got, you know, a big bag of M&Ms, and you know, I've got 30 blue M&Ms in my bag, but you've got 32 in your bag, the average of blue M&Ms per bag is going to really, well, kind of get closer to, you know, whatever the average is as you add more information. So it's very straightforward. Really just, we're going to move back towards whatever the middle is really the theory behind price. Okay, so if the all-time high price is up here, and I'm just going to use the Fibonacci tool to measure this. Okay, so our all-time high is above. Here's our all-time low. Okay, right now we're working our way towards halfway, is at 71,416. That's 500 pips from where we are. Okay, so I may just trade to that. And primarily for the reason that I've also got this candlestick pattern. You guys know what this is up here? This is a very much bearish signal. Okay, you guys see that right there? You guys know what that is? Just from a trading standpoint, I don't want to just tell everybody everything all the time. I want to make you guys struggle and think. Yeah, there you go. Dark cloud cover. That's what I'm talking about. And it's a big one, right? Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Ray. It's a big one, okay? And the interesting part about it is we kind of have another one forming right next to it, like right here. This one right here. That looks like the same thing to me, okay? This market closes out anything like this month, feels like a pretty bearish situation to me, okay? So that said, okay, I'm just going to run with the technicals on this thing. Okay, this is really where our trend line broke. So we may actually be seeing a little bit of a dip in the NZD. Okay, after placing a trade, do I need to keep my computer turned on always? Or if I turn my computer after placing a trade, is there any impact on the trade? No. Okay, so if you're running a robot, the answer is yes, unless you have a VPS that you're running it on, that's on all the time. Okay, simple answer to your question, Syed. If I place this trade right now, and since I went long on the Aussie JPY, okay, I could go short on the NZD JPY and trade the other direction. This might be considered a hedge by some people. I may also just not look to trade it as long term, because if I am expecting strength on the Aussie JPY, it really doesn't matter what I think. And really, as far as a down trade goes, this thing's been down for many of the last several days. And we're making higher highs and higher lows in this lower time frame. So I may actually just reel in my expectations a little bit and lean on my levels that are close to try to make a scalp trade, because, well, let's just say anything could happen in the next few days, okay? And our range, let's just say we've got very many turnarounds at this price we're looking at right now. So if I'm looking to sell, probably not a good idea that the market's turned around up there last time, at this price, multiple times. Okay, this thing has turned around and gone the other direction. Okay, so this is an impactful price we're at. So I may just look for a sideways move in the very near term. Let's come down to the 2 hour. Okay, this is going to look like a bigger trade on our 2 hour chart. Let's get rid of this big yellow circle we don't need anymore. Okay, so now we're down to this low time frame. You guys can see I've got a couple previous lows I'm using my stop loss. Okay, I may be a little bit less cavalier on the top side, so I can include this turnaround that happened because I want to get out before then. Okay, and now just might be buy time for my short-term position here because I'm not as confident for some reason. Just looking at the technicals, it seems like we're a little bit more dug down on this than the Aussie JPY. Okay, so 60.7. 97, 1 to 1.5, sounds neat, okay? So this is a smaller pip risk than my other trade I've got here, this 160 pips. So really, this situation, let's just say 60, and the shorter term my trades are, well, let's just say the more data I use, the more likely I am to win, okay? Just my experience. So more often than not, I like to use a huge stop loss. Not everybody likes to do that. We can definitely look at the Eurocad, Ray. I'm interested in that one. Lots going on in Europe. Really lots going on everywhere. So we can get through, we'll try to run through a bunch of them here soon. I'll try to maybe trim a little bit of the detail out of this stuff. But I want to make sure that people don't get lost. And really that you catch the important part. Right now, I'm looking at a $6 risk to try to make $9. Okay, not as interesting to me as, trying to make 40 with 16, but still looks like fun. And if I do a 0.02 here instead of a 0.01, I'm now risking $12 to try to make 18. Okay, so a little bit more fun. Okay, a little bit more fun. So I'm going to go ahead and click buy. Okay, it's because not necessarily everybody wants to know, what lot size should I trade? It's not so much that's important as how much money should I risk per trade? Okay, if you understand how much money is at risk, okay, the lot size is really what controls how much money is at risk. If I turn up the heat on my lot size, I'm going to be more emotionally attached to this trade because I, like every other living, breathing human on Earth, enjoy having money. So, if the market were to dig against me, for example, and fall, I don't want to be panicking because I risked $10,000 on this 60 pips here. Okay, this 60/100ths of a penny in movement. Okay, there will be more of it tomorrow. There's no reason for me to take that kind of a risk because I can't really. Let's just say I only want to have to win 3 or 4 times out of 10, and that means I need to be able to survive 5, 6, 7 losses, maybe 30 in a row. I need to be able to survive all of that and not sweat, lose my mind, because that's really the number one reason why people blow out their accounts is because they risk their entire account. If you really want the answer, that's it. But I'm not sure if we already clicked buy here. We did. Okay, so I'm long in both of those positions. Nothing really to look for here anymore. I've got a couple of requests here in the chat box that we can sidetrack. We can look at Eurocad. I wanted to look at some CAD pairs anyway. Okay, Eurocad does appear to be on a downtrend on this 2-hour. Let's go to the all-time frame. I'm gonna do this one a little bit quicker. I've already kind of given you guys the idea of how I want to do my long-term analysis. Jeff, the recording for this will be on our website later today on 123trade.com. I'm going to go ahead and draw some trend lines here for you folks. Okay, there's really our most recent outer trend. Okay, and really our most recent outer trend on the bottom. This might be something like what you might want to look at. That's what I'm looking at. And really this trend on the top, if we want to shave off a couple, outliers, really what I just did there. This is our channel. Okay, so I'm trying to make this a pattern that I can actually figure out how to trade. Okay, so number one thing to pay attention to is the overall trend, in my opinion, down. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. I'm looking for these breaks where the market stops rising and gives me a trend line break. Okay, so there's a lot of those, as you guys can tell, over the years. It's kind of flattened out a little bit, but the reality of the situation is I've really got one right here. Okay, we could be really headed for a fall. Okay, so this thing could come a long way down to the bottom, and a lot of people are looking at this a lot of different ways, but if we have a war in Europe, well, let's just say the demand for the euro will probably go down. There will be probably a little bit of a resurgence in the Swiss franc, because that's typically what happens when there's problems in Europe. Okay, the other side of that coin is that war is going to increase demand for something like oil. Okay, so that being said, and the fact that if I zoom in more on this and I come down to the week, I'm explaining the technicals right now with my narrative. I'm just trying to make myself more comfortable with my bias, because I'm already biased down right now. You guys are with me. You guys thinking down. The other reason why I'm thinking down is because this is our trend line on the top. Okay, we're below it. That means that we have not confirmed a change in trend from what started all the way back here in 2020. Okay, so this has been a downtrend for years. Okay, so we got a really nasty double top. We've got this long-term channel coming down. Really we've got another trend line break here. Okay, you guys see that one? Okay, all signs technically point to down. Okay, and fundamentally wouldn't be surprising, if the U.S. decides to start a big fight with Russia, because we absolutely have to have Ukraine in NATO for whatever reason they might actually think is more important than not going to war with Russia. That's fine. Okay, but let's go ahead and see where we are in the waves. This is a downtrend. It's been a downtrend. We're not quite at our extension. Our extension is right here. Go ahead and draw this line. This may be where we rip the tape on life, and I decide that I want to stop selling this pair. This is a lot further away than you think. Okay, a couple hundred pips away. We haven't hit our extension. Okay, so let's come down to the day chart. We might even have different levels on our day with our Fibonacci tool, and this is really my favorite chart to use my Fibonacci tool on. So I'm going to pull another one right here. Oop, not right there. JK. I want to do it from the top. There we go. And now, okay, what we're looking at is a little bit of a breakout that just happened. There's a little bit of a test happening. Okay, so a lot could go on. Okay, my extension level here is below. We did form a B here, but we got a lower low right after that. This is a breakout. Okay, and well, historically speaking, this thing breaks out, works its way back up, and then it falls. So this may be an opportunity for me to buy this thing back to my 382, I wouldn't want to buy it any further than that. I'm absolutely a seller, okay, when I look at levels like this 618. If we get up to that level, I'll make this blue. Okay, if we get up to my blue level up here, I am a seller. Right now, I may be a little bit apprehensive to just go ahead and jump in as a seller immediately. Okay, that said, I haven't taken a look at the lower time frame yet. Long-term move, this thing gets up to this higher price here. I'm in like Flynn, I would love to sell it from up there. Okay, I do think it's a downtrend. That doesn't mean that we may not be in a retracement, because nothing goes straight down. I do think that this thing is, well, destined for lower prices. Just my opinion. My opinion doesn't matter. The market doesn't care. Okay. A lot of people are a little bit, their egos get big. Okay. You can't let that get in the way of being a profitable trader. So here's our trend line. Current short-term trend. We're below it. Okay. So this may be what I use to actually find a trade, would be this short-term move. Lots of strategies out there. We're almost up to this 382. We did make a higher high here. Really difficult to say that I would want to sell immediately here, but reality, if I want to look for places to sell, I showed you guys where I would really want to sell earlier. This is going to be a little bit closer. Okay, so what I'm looking at here, stop loss outside of my AB boundary, because I don't want to be within the current range. Just based on my experience, it's going to give me a much better, and really all the education that I've gotten over the years from people like market traders. But that's really what I would be looking for. And for those of you that, I'm not sure, I think it was Raul asked me about a pending order earlier. Okay, this is what I might do in a situation like this. I might go ahead and throw on a pending order, and I would look to click pending. I want a pending sell. How many pips would we be risking from this price? Looks like 160. So very similar to the first trade I placed in risk size. Very similar in reward. So I'm going to do the same risk reward. I'm going to risk $16. Try to make 40.01. Okay, I need to get my price typed in here. I'm going to look to sell at 143.26. 1.4326. Okay, stop, limit. Okay, 160 pip risk. A lot of people look at 160 pips and they're like, wow, that's so many pips. It's really not. I don't know how else to put it. The market's going to move, 100 pips or so on average, I would say, per pair. Some of them are going to move 40 a day. Some of them are going to move 200. Kind of depends what you're looking at. This Eurocad is a rocket. Okay, so now my trap is set. I don't need to necessarily do anything. I can come later today, Sunday, maybe Monday, check out, see if I entered this trade. Otherwise, it's just going to happen. I'm going to wait for it to happen, because that's what investing is all about, is letting the market do the work. And thinking about something is work. I don't care what anybody says. GBP USD. How many of you in this room got paid to think for your whole life? Just give me a quick Y or an N. How many of you got paid to think? I know there's a lot of people that, have labor jobs. I've had them. I worked in construction. I built pools and fountains when I was 18 in college, and I worked in construction. Okay, so that was a totally different job. And I did not get paid to think. I got paid to shovel. Okay, at this point in time, I get paid more to make decisions. And if you can understand, if you make decisions a lot, you want to really kind of hedge your risk. And that's really what trading is about. So we talked about the pound. Okay, we talked about the UK earlier in this presentation. We talked about how, well, the UK is really open for business and mandates are gone. And that does seem relatively unique. Anybody know of any other countries that are making big statements like that right now? Because I don't. But this is our pound USD. This is our long-term trend. This is our month chart. Okay, if you guys are looking at this and seeing something other than an opportunity, that might be very long-term up. I'm not sure what you're looking at, okay? This has been a downtrend. This is a downward wedge, okay? It's a downward wedge that we have broken out of, and the company that you're watching in this video right now, if you're on YouTube or if you're on GoToWebinar with me right now, and you are not watching a video, this is live. Okay, this is a 1, 2, 3. The 1 is the break, 2 is the test, 3 is the run. Okay, that's really what this is all about. Okay, so if that's the case, this could be a huge opportunity. And, you know, I've already decided I'm going to be bullish here. I don't need this stuff anymore. Let's come down to my week chart. Let's zoom in, get a closer look at what's happening now. Because a lot of traders are looking at this and they're saying, oh my gosh, this trend line broke over here. This means it's going to come down forever. Not quite the case. Not quite the case. You know, because you can look at this from two different directions all the time. And this is what really confuses people. Okay, this is the trend line that I'm paying attention to. Because this has been moving up for most of the last couple of years. Okay, you guys noticed it broke our massive downtrend. This is the backside test, the 1, 2, 3 that I just showed you guys in the high time frame. There's the 1, this is the 2. Okay, this is kind of the 3. Okay, that's what I would expect. And we've got another smaller one, okay, because the high time frames, as I've been taught, as I've seen over the years, as would theoretically make sense, this is another 1, 2, 3 right here. Okay, I'm looking for the same thing on a smaller scale, wouldn't you know it? Okay, so let's go ahead and get rid of that one. May not need that. Let's come down to an even lower time frame so I can figure out where I want to get in. Because I already decided I want to look for buys here. Because reality right now could be go time. And the reason why right now could be go time is because the market's turned here before. Okay? It's turned at much lower prices as well. I want to find what's most impactful in the near term, and I'm just going to use my fib tool. Okay? Fib tool seems to be a winner for me in a lot of scenarios in measuring what high and low actually are. Okay? I also want to make sure that I use my most basic tool. Fibonacci's are neat. I'm a big fan of the line, if you guys haven't picked up on that. We are inching back below this line. We zoom in here a little bit more. We have come back down, okay? So we never really tested our 236, okay? That's this price here. So even if this is an uptrend in my brain, we never tested this level right here at 134.9. It's 50, 60 pips away from where we are right now. Never tested it, okay? Typically, my experience looking for something that, like, actually, you know what? Take it back. Let's zoom in. Take it back. This is a 90% hit. The 382 below that is typically going to be 80%. We're going to get a closer look, though, before I misspeak on this. Because it does appear that we are. Let me go back to my day so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I feel like I just kind of glazed over that. Let's go back to the day so you guys can see what I mean. We zoom in here. Okay, on this Fibonacci range. Okay, we've got our B price here. We actually did come back here and sting this 236. Okay, there is a chance we hit it again, but we don't necessarily have to. Okay, this 382 price below here, after we form our new B price, typically going to be very high probability we hit this level down here. Maybe happens, maybe it doesn't. Okay, we've been falling for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the last 7 days. Okay. A lot of people like to refer to Friday as correction Friday. You know, I am looking for strength here. I want to figure out where the market's turned around in the past and gone the way that I want. Okay, so I want to think about buying right now. Okay, has the market turned here before? Yes, kind of. Okay, so really all of these. It's a little bit convoluted. A lot of people might get FOMO in these types of situations. Let's come down to the 4 hour, get a closer look. I need to figure out something that I can manage my risk if I want to buy, okay? Really, I can do that now. There's just a lot of lows to test, okay? And which one is going to matter the most? Hard to say, okay? So I'm going to pull up my target. Eventually, I want to aim to 139. I think we can get there. Anybody in this room think that 139.67 is impossible and never going to happen again on the pound USD? Anybody in here? Y or an N in the chat box. You guys think it's possible the pound USD could get to $1.39.6? Possible, right? Some of you said no. Reason why I asked is because some of you think resounding yes, some of you think resounding no. Okay? One of you is right. One of you is wrong. Cool thing is that we have no idea of knowing which one of you it is. Okay? So that's called uncertainty. And what that means is that we're going to have to use a stop loss. Okay? Because I firmly believe that we can get up there. But I also don't know what's going to happen first, okay? Do we fall a ton? It could take 10 years for us to get to 139. Could be 10 years. Fundamentals, Ross, I mean, USD weakness. I mean, realistically, we've been getting good news in the dollar, but, you know, as we mentioned before, they may not be able to be as cavalier as they want if they don't want to crash China's economy. And if there's anything we've been kind to so far this year as a U.S. government, it's China's economy and the way that we've handled things with them. Okay, so that's not necessarily a bad thing, but that is kind of the way the policy has gone. We've been a little bit more accommodating to China in the last year. Okay, so than we were the previous 3 or 4. So, all things considered, we're at the 5.0 price. Not my favorite. I've got better risk reward right here at 135. 326 seems like a little bit safer of a place. This is another place where I'm going to try to get in at a pending order. I'm going to do a pending buy this time around. Okay, a pending buy, and that's going to be 135.3. Okay, and to your point, Ross, we're going to look at metals, and we're going to take a quick look at that. I think silver's been on a nice little streak here. I'm a big silver fan. You guys will learn if you come here every week. 160, wow, same exact size, risk reward almost that I'm looking at on all these. 160, 400, totally acceptable as far as as far as my strategy goes. Place order. I don't have to win very many trades if I win trades like this. Okay, when I say I don't have to win very many trades, I mean I have to win, 3 out of 10 to be a profitable trader. Okay, some people might trade shorter term than this. That's up to you. Some of you might want to come down to this 5-minute chart and scalp to where I'm getting in. That's not necessarily my cup of tea, but if you're the type of person that wants to do something like that, I'll show you what it looks like. 135.3, pretty much where I was aiming. I'll make this green. Reality, if you're looking for a scalp, it might just be something like this. And we're trading the opposite direction if you wanted to do this, just to show you guys. But there's a lot of trading strategies out there, and some people are going to care more about these types of moves than others, but this might be your scalp trade. You might sell it right now to where I'm trying to buy, and then you might try to buy it later too. Totally up to you. A lot of people talk about, oh, well, this analyst told me to buy, and this one told me to sell. How long are they looking to be in the position? Do they have a stop loss? There's really no telling like who's going to be 100% right all the time. I'm looking at this trend has been down, no confirmation of up. This is a trend trade. The other trade that I placed with my Fibonacci tool was more of a range trade. But that said, let's take a look at silver. And you guys can't trade this in your AvaTrade, place to trade accounts, whoever you guys have. I can't do it here in the US in the same manner that you guys can. They don't let us have as much fun when it comes to things like that. But silver, okay, just taking a look at silver, long term, well, let's just say it's been an uptrend for thousands of years. We're only looking at the last 30 years, okay? But it's been an uptrend for the last thousands of years. So I want to go ahead and take a quick second here. We're going to draw a long-term trend. That was our long-term trend. We broke it. And then we went sideways. And here was our sideways trend that we lived in for years. Okay, and then we had this uptrend that happened for a short period of time. Okay, this one here. Okay, we broke that. We've been kind of sideways since. If I come down to my day chart, that's going to be real obvious. Okay, and really this is the only information that I'm going to care about so much, other than the fact that I know lower prices are possible. Okay, lower than 20 bucks on silver, totally possible. I'm going to show you guys why, but this is the range that we've been living in. Okay, real quick, just to show you guys, we haven't looked at this in here in a while. How much government debt do you think that the U.S. government has? I'll tell you the world debt is 280 trillion. That's how much the governments of this world owe to central banks, like the Reserve Bank of Australia, or the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, or the Federal Reserve here in the US, or the Bank of Canada, or the Bank of England. Yeah, they're a little bit in the hole. 281 trillion with a T. Okay, the US government, here's us, 29 trillion 820 billion 927 million. People complain about the US government spending $1 million all the time, and it'll happen sometime just in debt payments since I started talking about it, since I mentioned it here before I pulled this website up. Okay, the part I want to talk about right now, paper to silver ratio. You guys see this paper to silver ratio? 309 to 1? That's crazy high. Crazy high. Okay, what that means is that this has climbed a lot recently too. Last time I looked at this, it was 188 to 1. Okay, that was real recent. Like real recent. So there are either a lot of people betting in the futures market on up or down right now. I mean, and it's gold used to be, I want to say this was like 88 to 1. This is numbers way up too. Paper trading on silver and gold is way up. So this could be a lot of things. It could mean that supply has not been able to really catch up with demand, the physical supply, okay, which is important to understand. This paper to silver ratio is huge. Really, really pumps up the amount of silver in the market, almost doubled it. Okay, so the paper to silver ratio is up. Really, I didn't expect it to be that crazy. So I want to go ahead and check out, let's see, it's not the FTC, futures. What's the name of that web? It's the CFTC.gov, CFTC. Yeah, there we go. Or not com. And I just pulled a Joe Biden there. It's .gov. This is the Commodity Futures Trading Commission website. I just want to take a quick look. This is more of an advanced thing. If you guys want to know more about this stuff, then keep coming back to these sessions. We're almost out of time here, so I want to make sure the commitments of traders data is what I'm looking for. Okay, and I want to know more or less how many people are long and how many people are short on these paper trades that we just talked about here. So metals and other, let's look at the short format. There'll be another report that comes out on this later today. But I want to look for silver on this report. This is platinum. Silver is right here. Okay. And really the way that I think they purposely make this difficult to read. But here are all the positions right here. Okay. I need to know more or less what the producer, merchant users, those people, the managed money. I want to know what the managed money is doing. Okay, the managed money is long. Okay, 50,000 long positions, 32,000 short. Managed money is long. These other, commodity exchange, these producer merchants, people that want the price of silver to stay low so that they can continue to produce products like electric vehicles and cell phones at lower prices. Okay, those people are short. Okay, and really the difference here is about 37,000. Okay, we've got about a 28,000 difference over here in the hedge funds. So really maybe short overall net in the paper market with all the big players, the people that actually set trend. Okay, so I may not want to be looking at long on silver anymore. I may be looking for places to sell. And primarily for that reason I just mentioned. Paper is way up. Okay, so that does affect this price in this chart. We have been up for the last few days. I don't know, this may be a scary one to buy right now. Doesn't mean it would be long term. Here's a trend, okay? And I think we may test it. So, no gospel in the world. I think we can come back to the top of our box, hit prices around $30. I think silver is long term destined for 2,000. If you want to wait long enough. But, nobody's going to wait that many years. Nobody's looking to wait 20 years in this session for their trade to expire. So let's take a look here on the 2-hour time frame. We're getting some sideways movement right now. We're still above trend. This is still an uptrend, people. So you may be looking for buys still. I would stop looking for it when we start testing these highs above. And let's actually dump all this stuff here. Just look at our range. But silver's bullish. Okay, so that's not necessarily a vote of confidence for things like the US dollar. Okay, really our big next turnaround might be up here at 25 bucks. I think that level is going to get tested. Some of you might look for a short-term buy to that price. Some of you may look to sell at 25 bucks and make a scalp on, maybe the shorter term range that exists up here. Okay, you may just sell it back to the price we're at now from 25 when it gets there. Okay, there's a lot of strategies that a lot of traders might take. I think silver is going to be a little bit of a fast mover here in the short run because of that type of stuff. Yeah, I see what you did there, Ray. I see what you did there. But we could see a crash on silver also. I know people are looking that a potential move could come down. And really the easiest way to figure this out, in my opinion, well, maybe not the easiest way. That's probably not the best word for that. It's really more or less, how do I measure what high and low prices are? I missed that 2 times. We're going to zoom in more this time. We're going to do it different. And that's not a big enough wave for me to use. So I may need to use my 8-hour or my day maybe. See if we can actually find this range. Let's get to the day. I want to know if we're at an extension price right now on our shorter term trend. Because that would make me want to be more inclined to want to look for a sell right now, and we're not. Okay, really my extension price, the price I want to look to sell at, funny part is that 25 bucks? Looks like it might be. Okay, this might be the range trade that I would be looking for. Okay, so this extension level here is at 24,656. Okay, so we actually hit it already. Looks like we did. The high on this candle over here, yeah, we just about hit our extension level, so that actually means that I might have a new range, and this would be my new range right over here, and I would really only want to trade it down to my 382 level, and that's down here at 23.6. So from this price, 24 bucks is really the first target I might like to look for. Simply because I don't think anything goes straight up, so I'll just show you guys the levels I'm looking for. Okay, 236. Also looking for this 382 right down here. Okay, so first base, second base, stop loss price. If this thing gets higher than this 24.69, based on for these scalp trades, I don't want to be in anymore. Okay, that's really the long short of it. I don't want to be in anymore. Okay, if we come down to the 3-hour chart. Okay, and these blue lines I think are probably confusing for you guys. I've been using green for my exit prices this whole time. But reality, this is what I'm looking at. And this would be, weakness on the dollar, which would kind of breed my GBP trades that are my pending orders that are here. On my pound. We're going to go long on my pound. Versus the USD. So we're kind of all over the place. Diversification is neat. And I think that we've done a good job of doing that here today. We're at a minor level of resistance here. But just to show you guys, put my blue price here. We're out of time. I got to get going. I've got meetings galore that I skip when I come do these sessions. And I really enjoy doing that. Not because I enjoy skipping meetings, but because I like to do analysis. This is lots of fun for me. I hope you guys enjoy the sessions. If you guys do have any questions about anything, you guys need more help with something, you have any family members that need a trading account, you want another one to test a robot, you want to reload your account and see if you can get something for free from us, send us an email, brokers@123trade.com. If you haven't been on the website, there's lots of stuff here. Okay, so if we go back here, I'm on the thank you page for this ebook now. But if we check out this YouTube page here, this video will be on YouTube. Not sure how quickly I'll be able to get it there, but the recording will be there right here. Latest videos. There are educational stuff on the bottom of this page, are educational videos on here. So if you want to know how to use Smart Trader, Ray, this is where the video is that you want to go watch. Because essentially I go through every tool, lots of indicators, tons of different stuff, more than I cover in these sessions in that video. But thanks everybody for joining. You guys have a wonderful rest of your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And as always, be good or be good at it. Take care, folks.